So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Vikas, and congratulations with that latest announcement. Excellent news. And President Clinton then stressed the need for us all to commit to excellence and to replicate excellence. So let's see if we can do that now. This is the part where we're going to ask you to get your hands dirty and get involved, because we turn to the Transformation Challenge. So let's introduce you to Kirk, CEO of GEMS Education Solutions. That's the specialist consultancy arm of GEMS Education. And they have designed and are going to be running the Transformation Challenge sessions over the next 2 days. So let's hear a little bit more from him. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Kate, and it's a pleasure to join you on stage.
So tell us more about this challenge and what we're all going to be doing then.
Well, this is going to be a very interactive part of the whole 2 days, and you're going to be very busy, and you're going to be contributing to reform and design of education systems. And because it's very interactive, we wanted to get you involved even before we began the conference.
And just to pick up, before we do begin, you were looking and quite interested in the difference and the sort of the disparity between private and public education. And you undertook a survey of the delegates, and I'm just quite intrigued to, before we begin, to learn what you found.
That's right, we did. And thank you for taking part in it. We asked you, first of all, about your own education. And we found that 45% of us who are here in the room today were privately educated. We also found
45% of people are privately educated here, yes, which is interesting in itself.
It is. It's certainly a lot more than you might find in a random cross-section of the population. Perhaps as interestingly, we found that 64% of us chose to have our children privately educated. And only 4% of us who were privately educated chose to switch into the public sector.
Okay, what did you make of that? And let's just ask you, are you privately or state educated?
Actually, I was myself state educated, Kate, and you?
Me too.
Okay, well, we're bulletproof then.
Yes. I'm the daughter of a London taxi driver and a mum who was a preschool teacher, but education was absolutely key for them. So yeah. There we go. I'm state school educated too. Anyway, okay. So well, let's move on, because in terms of fee paying, as we know, many of the world's population can't afford to pay fees. And that harrowing story that we heard about Haiti, parents having to sell children into effective slavery to try to afford school fees. It indicates just again just how important it is that we improve education for all. And this session you really want to see sort of designed for all of us to collaborate and bring all of our expertise to the table to see how we might do that.
That's right. In many conferences you come along, you hear people speak, and we hear many things that are good about how to reform education. But actually the real challenge is, how do you make decisions about what's the best? And so the Transformation Challenge will take all of us on a journey over the next 2 days. We'll have the chance to get involved in the redesign of 2 very contrasting school systems. Now, we have anonymized the names of the actual countries. We've called one Emergia, and the other one is called Westlandia. And the first is a developing economy, the second is a developed economy. And we've used real data from real countries. We've put together the data from PISA showing student outcomes. We've also added into that data showing what did those countries actually spend on education and how did they choose to spend it, between things like teacher pay, the number of teachers, class size. And we have that data for 39 different countries, and we've tracked that data over 15 years, because of course decisions that you make today on expenditure may not impact on results for a number of years' time. So this is a unique way to use data to understand how do you make an education system better.
Okay, so that's the challenge. Before we begin, you just want to find out what the room start by thinking about the key components of an education system's design. So tell us more about that.
That's right. We wanted to get your input very early on. So we have 5 questions which are key to education system design. And you should all have a voting pad. If you can just find your voting pads, maybe hold them up so I can sort of get a sense that we're finding them. Lots of pads in the air. Brilliant. What you need to do is press 1 if you agree with the statement I'm about to make, and press 2 if you disagree.
So 1 for agree, 2 for disagree.
Okay, that's your first test. That's what you have to remember.
Yeah.
So let's have a go. Let's have a go. Can we bring up question 1, please? Okay, question 1. Benchmarking PISA and TIMSS results helps to drive up national standards. You only have 5 seconds to vote, so use your gut reaction. Press 1 to agree, 2 to disagree. Please be making your votes now. This must remind you of live television days, Kate. We find that 71% of you do agree with that. For the 29% who disagree, we have the honour of having Professor Schleicher in the room with us today, so you can take it up with him. But it's certainly the case that some countries, such as Poland, Germany, Israel, have taken a close look at PISA results, have implemented reforms, and their systems have improved. Some of you from developing economies may not yet be fully participating in PISA, but the question is, how do we then find out about the quality we're producing and how we can increase it? Let's have a second question, please. So question number 2. Teachers should not be allowed to take private tutoring jobs. Nice controversial one. Press 1 if you agree, and 2 if you disagree. Okay, so 30% of you agree that teachers should not be allowed to, but 70% of you disagree with that. So you would like teachers to be able to take tutoring jobs if they can. You know, teacher moonlighting, as it's known, is becoming more and more common. We do have a lot of teachers in the room today, so I'm wondering if that's helped to affect the results. Now, we know that when we ask teachers why they do it, obviously there are some countries where it's almost a necessity in order to be able to have a living wage. For other countries, even in developing nations, teachers do it partly for pay, but also for satisfaction. Sometimes teachers find the satisfaction of that one-to-one tutoring is more enjoyable than the constraints of the classroom. So we could try and legislate against it, or maybe we could think about how do we make the job more rewarding and enjoyable. Let's have the third question, please. So, just to shake things up a little bit more, teachers should be paid based on their performance. Press number 1 if you agree, and number 2 if you disagree. Wow. 76% of you agree with that statement. What do you think, Kate?
I was going to say, you surprised by that?
Well, it's not the normal balance. Normally in these surveys in most countries you get about 60%. Again, we have a lot of teachers in the room, so that's a very interesting finding, but probably people who are thinking at the forefront of policy.
We're going to explore these, aren't we, further detail, because this is fascinating.
We will indeed.
I know we're tight for time now, but sorry, go on.
No, and people who would tend to disagree with that statement might say that performance-related pay can lead to teaching to the test, breaks down collaboration, but actually many industries with equally complex businesses do use performance-related pay. They talk about the importance of clarity of objectives and courageous leadership to be able to tell people, are you doing a good job or are there things that you need to improve? Question number 4, please. Okay, so increasing contact time with teachers improves student performance. So do you think that there is a relationship between a student spending longer in a class with a teacher and their results getting better?
Surely this is going to be very high, isn't it? Let's see.
Oh, you make your mind up and don't say yet, Kate, so you don't lead the witness. So what did you think would be the answer,
Well,
Kate?
yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I'd be interested to hear, again, I want to drill down into the details. I know we're going to do that over the next 2 days, but why the 17% say not?
Yeah.
Maybe we think that perhaps kids...
Well, interesting, the 17% who say not are in line with the available evidence. because there's no evidence that teachers spending longer with children per se actually increases the performance of those children. And when we drill down into that, there are two factors. Firstly, in terms of a student who is being taught is one thing. Having time to learn, to reflect, and actually perform better is another thing. So it's not so much about the amount of time, it's about how learning is structured. And if you think of it from the point of view of a teacher, if you're spending your whole working day, your whole working week, drilling through in contact with students, where's the time to plan, prepare, and assess? And the data is very clear that teachers taking ownership of their planning, preparation, assessment, thinking about each student is a major driver of performance.
Okay, stand corrected. Go on, next one.
It's just what the research says.
Yep.
It's not always gospel truth, of course. Let's look at number 5. Small class sizes lead to better student outcomes. You can probably guess where I'm going to go with this one. But let's see what the room thinks. I'm going to keep quiet now, yeah. Yeah, so again, the vast majority of the room agrees. And indeed, many developing economies have set very specific measurable goals for reducing the number of students that each teacher has to teach. The research is a little ambivalent on this one. Certainly for children who need additional support, being in a small class can be more helpful. Of course, when you're looking at the system as a whole, to have smaller classes, you need more teachers. If you have a fixed amount of money, that either means that you pay the teachers that you have less, or you have to look at different ways of creating that. So it's about how you spend your money.
So these are some of the hard decisions that people are going to be addressing over the next few days to try to affect massive change between us. Is this right? Is this what we're going to be aiming to do?
Absolutely. You're going to be going into rooms in a moment where you'll have the chance to look at the case studies and actually as teams try and make some tough decisions. You'll get feedback on the second day about the decisions that were made in day one. On day one, we'll be looking at a developing economy. On day two, we'll be moving to the very different needs of how do you actually improve things in a developed economy and perhaps move from good to great. Now, remember, please, as you're around your tables, it is a competition between the different tables. And the winners will be announced in the closing plenary on the closing day. And you'll be making decisions that will be numerical in terms of resources, but we'll be also asking you to explain the policy decisions you make and to justify why you've made the decisions you have against some criteria about what makes a good education system. And you'll be judged by an expert panel, and that is Jeffrey Canada, who's Chief Executive of the Harlem Children's Zone in the United States. It's Professor Laudi Kamaludin, who is President of Inisula in Indonesia. Eric Johnson, who is the Lead Education Development Officer for USAID, and Sally Gear, who is the Development Advisor in the Department for International Development, who leads on the Girls' Challenge Fund, which focuses on improving education for marginalised girls. So they'll be looking at your reasons for making your policies. Okay, all right, well, we look forward to hearing the results, but the Transformation Challenge then begins now. At 12 o'clock, you'll begin the workshop 1 of the challenge. You'll need to make your way to the 6th floor. You can grab a tea or coffee, of course, on your way to the room, and we'll look forward to seeing you again at the closing plenary tomorrow, where we will be announcing the winners. So I do hope you enjoy the Transformation Challenge. It starts then 12 o'clock, workshop 1 on the 6th floor. Do enjoy, and we'll see you later.